I'm here with Angela Pilla Soares. She's an attorney in New York and in Florida is the owner of Southern Capital Title.
Yes.
Mom of three, entrepreneur. Thank you for your time. And I had a couple of questions because title is a critical part of our transaction in real estate.
hmm
So, as a real estate agent in Broward County for almost 20 years, title has been like a ticking bomb.
Yeah.
What a better idea to have the expert with us. First of all, what brought you to open your own title company? If you can elaborate, because the
Sure.
philosophy behind the action is also important.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm like so blessed to have met you, and I'm so glad that we're doing this. Like you said, I was an attorney in New York. I still am an attorney in New York, and I had a primarily real estate focused real practice up in New York for 12 plus years. I've been in South Florida now since 2016, and when I first came to Florida, I quickly realized that Florida does things very differently, which is what like one of the number one questions I'm asked actually from people moving here. Like, you don't need attorneys, and you don't necessarily need an attorney here to close a transaction. And I found that very strange. And actually, an attorney, it's like almost cringy a little bit, right? The transactions being closed, but it works. If you find the right partners to partner with, a great title company can be a huge asset. And the journey to opening Southern Capital Title was kind of I bounced, I'm going to be honest, I bounced around from title company to title company in South Florida, and I just could not find one that I really aligned with and really could get behind on how their systems and processes and how they treated their customers. Something was always missing, right? What we do at a title company is it's a blend between managing really crazy transactions, but also the personalities and the people in it, right? And I just couldn't find someone that did that really well. And I knew I could, and I knew I could provide a very different type of experience for not only the customer, but for really you, the real estate agent, who are my referral sources, right?
Yes.
Because you're the ones that get stressed, right? You're trying to protect your people, so the
Yes.
buyers may not even know what's going on, and you're just like,
No, they don't.
yeah, so I just really believed whole deep down inside that I could do a better job. I knew that I had the knowledge, right? Like, I know how to clear title, I know how to close a transaction. That's all I've been doing my whole adult life. But if I could add that piece of like compassion and empathy and caring, then we had something special. And so that's where we are.
Thank you so much. Because it's people business, right? I heard people do business with people. I don't know how
Mhm.
you are. I know how I am. I'm a workaholic. So what I heard that you've done is you tried. You came to South Florida and you tried. You went to different title companies to have the culture, to find the culture with that philosophy of having people interest first. Sometimes it's 5 o'clock and we leave. No, we don't have, I don't, we don't have a 9 to 5. It's like from
We
start to
don't.
finish, from initial showing to successful closing. And the fact that you didn't find it prompt you to say,
Yeah.
okay, I have the experience and I can do it. So I congratulate you because we need that. We need
Yes.
that. I always say it takes a big team of professionals to get the clients to the closing table. And sometimes the only face they see is the realtor because we market, we can sell your house, we can help you buy the house,
hmm
and we are the only face. But behind us, there is really a big team, and we cannot control everybody's urgency. Every office works differently. And when you are calling, sometimes I feel like a pest. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
sorry to bug you, but do you have any update? Because
Right. And I'm going to tell you like the way that we operate, and this is every single thing that we do in my business, in our business, in our processes, our systems is intentional. And it is because of something that happened that and it happened to me last night, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, I will make a note and I'm going to add something to my process." I never want the way that I look at a transaction is this, right? So yes, you have the paperwork and they have all the legal stuff. Of course, that's what our job is, right? But you have all of these people. You have people that are selling. Maybe they're getting divorced. Maybe they're moving out of state. Maybe they're relocating for a job. They're stressed. Maybe they lost a job, right? You don't know. So they have to sell. So they're under stress. You have buyers who are in this market probably really petrified of everything, right? They're petrified of the interest rates. They're petrified of like, are they making the right decision? Am I buying too high? I don't know. So they're freaking out because their lender is also like throwing things at them, asking them for all these things. I don't want to be a problem in the equation. I want to be the solution. So when I get a contract, we really do pick up the phone and we call everybody. We call the buyers, call the sellers, call the agent. We call them the directing agent and then a non-directing customer, right? So in Broward County, right? Typically the buyer picks the title company. So I have a relationship with them. I'm going to call and say, hey, Celia, thank you so much. Got the contract, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also going to call the listing agent because that listing agent doesn't know me, maybe, right? Maybe they do. I want them to feel like, hey, you're just as much as part of of this transaction and we need you and we're going to all work together because and I want them to feel the love of like how we operate. So that's the initial part. During the transaction, we give what I call good news updates. So every Friday, everybody on every file gets a good news update, hopefully, right? Sometimes I joke and I'm like, not so great, like we have this. But if there is an issue, and one of my superpowers is resolving issues, if there is an issue, I want you to know. I am not going to wait to the week before closing and be like, oh, by the way, Cecilia, we found this missing, we found out that there's a missing heir and we never told you about it. And we need to go locate them in like Iowa, right? And we can't close until we find this person.
Mm-hmm.
If that is an issue, I want to tell you 3 weeks ago, right? Because 3 weeks ago, I'm going to tell the seller and the seller's agent, like, hey, listen, we got an issue. Like, who is this person? And wow, I got to go find them. And on the buyer side, at least I can set an expectation of, hey, listen, we have a problem and I'm doing everything I can to solve it. But I'm going to let you know now because I don't want you to expect to come to closing on October 15th and me be able
No,
and me
yes,
tell you like,
people
no,
are organizing, moving, plane tickets, the next
everything.
place, everything
Yes.
on that day. How much of your certainty to find the problem 2 or 3 weeks before? Because my experience on this end is, Cecilia, I'm sending you I'm gonna start going into the
Yes.
specifics more. You also depend on the city lien, for example, report, and they might take 3 weeks. We are used to get reports 5 days before closing, and not good news.
Okay, let's go into what a title company does and then what those reports
Okay,
are, right?
yes, sorry.
So basically what a title company or a title agent is in control of, what our job is to make sure we do searches on the property so that we get reports, we look at what's going on and we say, okay, but what is the end goal? The end goal is that when that buyer takes title that property, it is free and clear of any issues that has to do with the seller. That is everything from the most common, a mortgage, right? Most of the title reports we get, people have mortgages. Those mortgages need to get paid off. Sometimes you have a violation. Sometimes you have judgment, tax lien, things like that. We are making sure that whatever the seller's issues are don't become the buyer's. That's basic. We order two main searches. One is called a title search, and that searches the county and the official records of the county. So if we're in Broward, we're searching Broward County records. That search comes back in the form of what's called a title commitment. That title commitment is going to say, okay, Angela owns this property with her husband. They have a mortgage. Oh, by the way, they have a judgment. They have a tax lien. They have whatever. I'm making stuff up, right? That's not really what we have, but giving you examples. It's going to tell us everything. The next search that we do is called a lien search, and that is with the city that the property is located in. Okay. You are 100% right. The title search takes maybe 24, 48, 72 hours to get. And we get that from our title underwriters. We're a title agent and we have title insurance underwriters. So kind of like if you went to ABC homeowners insurance company, right? And they could say, okay, we're going to get you a quote from Liberty, Geico, Citizens, this, that, the other thing, right? They have different carriers. Same thing with us. We're a title insurance agent and we have two carriers, let's say. So we order our searches from those people and they're really quick on turning those around. So on the title side of things, like the actual county, you should know pretty quickly within probably a week at max what is going on. The lien search, when you order from the city, there's very little wiggle room on how quickly you can get it because the cities say, okay, if you order it here, we have up to our turnaround time is 7 to 14 business days. So sometimes, and some cities have rush options and some don't. But in my experience, the biggest hangups, the biggest delays in closing don't necessarily have to do with what we find in the city. Yes, there's sometimes open permits, things like that need to be taken care of. Okay. But it's really on the title search, right? Where you should really know within 7 days what's going on. And if there is a delay, well, I'm just going to say this: we do not wait to order searches. Okay, you give me a contract, I'm opening that file, and we are ordering searches on the same day of the contract. I know personally that there are some title companies that will wait till the inspection is over, and this and that. I don't. I'm going to tell you very honestly, I don't have time to monitor when your inspection period is over. So I'm ordering your search. Period. End of story. We're ordering the search. And we have really great relationships with our vendors so that if something cancels, then we go to our vendor and we say it canceled. And we have certain policies and certain things. It's a business for us, right? Like
Okay.
we're not waiting.
Okay. That's
And
great
that
to
and
know.
that and that may be some of the reason why you have delays because they're waiting.
Because of the cancellations, because it's very common after inspections, the deal is off and you already pay for that report or you already ordered it and it's a dead deal.
It's a dead deal, and it's our responsibility on our side, like to have vendors that we partner with that are good to us, so that if we do have a cancellation, it's not the biggest deal. You
Okay,
know,
got it. Yes, now I'm trying to think how many times we got, oh, this issue with the title, and now we need to resolve, or the seller has to solve it, and we need to extend the closing. And I'm like, but how come we didn't know this, just a little bit before? Because week
no,
before allows me not to delay the closing another week. But I
well,
think it's
that
part of your culture.
I never want to be the person that's like, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you about this title issue, and we have, we need like 3 weeks to you know, fix it.
Okay.
No, as soon as that title commitment comes in, we're reviewing it, and I actually have like part of our process is a template email that goes out to the agents that literally says, I have two. I have one that says like clear, title commitment clear, and then title commitment with issues. So if the title commitment with issues will literally say like, hey Cecilia, we got the title commitment in. These are the issues that we need to solve. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Sometimes if they're really complicated, and I don't expect you to know this, if they're really complicated, I'm calling you before and I'm saying, hey, I'm sending you an email. It's bad.
I think that's better than to have an email that says, here's the title commitment or here's the title search and just a PDF. And I'm
No,
like reading 30 pages and I don't
no, no, no.
understand anything. And they say, oh, I highlighted what you need to do. And I'm like, lost.
So, okay. And this goes back to everything I do is intentional, every single piece of my process. So I literally know, I've been doing this a long time. I know that you are in your car, you're on your phone, you're all over the place. You're not, your job is not to read a title commitment. If you wanted to read a title commitment, you would be entitled, right? Same thing with a lien search. Those lien searches are 40 pages. I know what to look for because I've been looking at them for 20 years, right? I can tell you exactly what you need to do. So my emails that go out will literally say, hey, Cecilia, attaches a title commitment. If there are no issues, we put in bold and it's in our template, all is clear. So you're just like, okay, right?
Awesome.
And I'm not kidding. Like people love it. And if it's
Yes.
not clear and there's an issue, it will say, hey, Cecilia, title commitment revealed the following issues 1, 2, 3. And then we will say at the bottom, we will contact the seller and the seller's agent to to start working on clearing these items. Right.
Amazing. Okay,
So
good.
if I need you, I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, hey, I need you to do this. Right. And
Yes.
sometimes I do. Sometimes my biggest need sometimes is, hey guys, the HOA is not answering. The HOA doesn't respond to us. I need somebody to go like knock on their door.
Yes. And I offer that and I've done that.
Yeah. So
Because I
that's
offer, what else can I do? What can I do on my end to help?
100%. And so last night, just going into like a little bit of like everything that we do is intentional. I had an agent call me and his seller was confused. She answered our question, but she got confused. And then she called the agent. She was like, I don't know why they're asking me this. Da, da, da. And so he texted me last night at like 6:15. Usually I'm on the soccer fields with my kids. So I'm like, I'm sitting in the car, call me. So we did a 3-way conversation with the seller. I cleared it up. It was really not a big deal. And he says to me, he goes, thanks again. You're awesome. Because I said, I'm going to look at our process and see where did we miss something that she was confused about a very tiny question, right? He goes, top notch service. I love that you practice what you preach because I truly mean it. She's confused. And I'm like, why is she confused? What did we miss? Should we have asked, like, should we have sent her one more email or should we have called her one more time? You know? And sometimes
Yeah.
like we can't avoid it. Everybody's different. But it forced me to look at my process like maybe I could add something.
But I think, like we stated before, this is a teamwork, and sometimes we fail to communicate. Because I got those emails, Cecilia, what is this? Cecilia, do I sign this? Cecilia, I got this email.
Right.
I said, that's fine. That's the title company. Because I've learned that even when I tell them, I will, I tell them the
Yeah.
title company will be contacting you to get
Yeah.
personal information, and you need to respond with your social security, your marital status, your current address. They will ask you your bank account. They will ask you personal questions. I don't know how many times have you go to YouTube and type how to, and then an expert on the other side that did it like very quickly, and then you try it on your end. When you try it, it's not the same like the person on YouTube because he's an expert.
Right.
But you get to practice. This is, for me, it's very important. You get to practice. When you go to YouTube, how to do something, then you go and you practice. However, first-time sellers, first-time buyers, they go to YouTube and they listen to somebody about the process, but then they need to do it. And then the emotion comes in, and whatever you told them, even in writing, sometimes I'm thinking to put it in writing. Like you said, the process is so overwhelming. They are with a calendar. They need to change things. They need to move.
Yeah.
So they get lost in the little details.
They do. They get lost, and it's totally overwhelming, which is why, again, going back to the beginning, we call, right? So it's very important to me to call a buyer because, you're sending me money.
Yes.
If I was
Like,
sending somebody thousands and thousands of dollars, I would like to know who they are. So instead of them saying like, well, no, the title company never called me, I'm calling them and saying, hey, we just got a contract. And this is why I always ask my agents, when you're sending me a contract, give me your buyer's information. Because it's the first thing I'm going to do is call. And we call and we say, hey, we're the title company on the contract, and they're more comfortable. We do that with sellers too. We tell them what we're going to send them, but still, again, even though we're telling them, they're still coming to you and saying, I got this.
What is this? Yes.
And I'm like, just call us. It's okay. And I'll joke with like sellers or buyers. I'm like, it's okay. You can call us. Like, we don't bite. Like, call us. This is who we are. Here's my cell. Like, call me if you have a question.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes, they said you know them, you call them, you ask them. It's a big mystery behind, title and the office. And it's someone else, as I said, they are used to dealing with the realtor, and then you come in as part of the team, and they need to be proactive with you. Same with the mortgage lady. I said, the mortgage person asks you for a paper, you run and you give it to them.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of the most common issues in title and your approach to solutions. I get this sometimes. I'm married, but I would like to buy a property on my name alone. Is an investment property, maybe. How you take title. Can I buy with my mom? Can I buy with my sister or a friend? I guess it depends. If it is a primary residency, usually it's with husband, wife. And if it is a secondary in Florida, can somebody take title in their own name, even if they are married?
Here's the answer. So Florida is a homestead state, and it's very protective of your homestead. So your primary residence, right? Where you're living. If you are married and you are purchasing a primary residence that is going to be your homestead, and you are taking out a mortgage or a loan to purchase that property, you need your spouse to join in the mortgage. Okay. The reason being, and this is where I always like context, like, why are we doing that? Reason is that Florida does not want any spouse to take on debt to their home where they live without the other spouse knowing. Okay. So because again, goes back to they're super protective. So I go buy a primary residence. I'm married to my husband, Ray, for 20 years. Right? I go buy a primary residence, getting a mortgage. Ray doesn't necessarily have to be on the deed. So I could take title as Angela Pilla Soares, a married woman, but this gets a little complicated. So we're going to gloss over it for a second. But he has to sign the mortgage. Okay. What the misconception is, well, no, he's not on the loan. He's not on the loan. Okay. He doesn't have to be on the loan. He's not actually applying for the loan. He is not going to be a borrower. He is simply a spouse joining in the mortgage. And what we mean by joining is that he's just acknowledging that I'm taking on debt to our home.
So that is on a primary residence.
Primary residence. Investment, there is no such, like, you don't have homestead protection on investment. So if I want to go buy an investment property with my sister, doesn't matter. I can go and do that no matter what. Where this gets tricky, okay, is if you have, and I've had it happen, you have a couple, they're married legally still, but they're separating and they're getting divorced, but they're not divorced yet. She's moving out and she's going to go buy a condo, and it's going to be her primary residence, and this is going to remain his. Unless they are legally divorced, her husband, soon to be ex-husband, has to still join in the mortgage. So I've had at closing soon to be ex-husbands here signing. It happens.
Another service that you might offer besides closings, maybe, wills, trust, anything else that you offer?
So at the moment, like I told you, I'm a licensed attorney in New York. I am not licensed here in Florida yet. I am set to take the bar in Florida in February. So once I pass, I'm going to manifest
Yes.
that.
Yes.
My goal is to open an ancillary law firm that can offer those services. So as
Okay.
a title company now, we partner with a very good friend and colleague of mine that does offer those services, and I work very closely with them. I still stay involved in the process because just like you, they know me, right? And they want me.
Yes.
Right. They're like, but no, you do it. I'm like, well, I can't legally, right? So I'm like, but I'm here for you. I'm here. I'm monitoring. I'm watching, right? Me personally cannot offer those services, but I do partner with and refer to and help and assist.
Last question.
Yeah.
It seems that you're always prepared and you always have an answer. So if I can do it, somebody else can do it, and I will overview that. And the last question I have is escrows on a seller. In this case, for example, I'm representing sellers. So the sellers are paying their mortgage on their houses, and part of mortgage payment includes taxes.
Yes.
So they pay principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So the bank is collecting every month $100 to $200 in escrow to pay the property taxes at the end of the year. So now my seller is selling in, let's say, September. So the bank is having already 9 months in escrow for the seller's property taxes. But at closing, title company will collect proration, the seller paying property taxes twice. How can he recuperate that? How long it will take for the bank to...
Everybody in title hates this time of year because it's like, whoa, right? So again, we do this on a case by case basis. So we don't have like this like blanket, like, okay, it's September, it's October, almost October, right? Like do this, right? So we are really going to try to see when we get the payoff. Sometimes the payoff actually tells us if they release the escrow.
The lender paid the county property taxes?
Sometimes. Not all payoffs have it, but some of the payoffs will come and say, okay, you owe this, and here's a little escrow analysis, and it'll say like payment sent to Broward County. Not all of them. At this point right now, we really do try to call the mortgage payoff company and say, hey, when are your payments being sent? Most of the lenders don't send until it's actually due. So November 1st, right?
Okay.
Is when they're sending their payments. So anything before then, we're assuming it's not paid, right? So no, they will not pay it twice, right? They're not going to pay it twice, but we're just going to be careful that it does get paid and that the right person.
How can I advise seller? Okay, yes, you're paying your property taxes prorated at closing, but whatever you pay on your monthly payment up until now, what does my seller need to do? They need to call the bank. How long they need to wait after the closing to claim that money?
Right. So
that's my interest. Like how to advise the seller to recuperate the escrow.
So once the mortgage is paid off, the banks have 30 days to release that escrow back to the seller.
Oh, okay. So there is no action on the seller's part.
No. So basically what happens is we send a payoff. The only thing that a seller really, if they want to be super proactive, is to call their bank and say, hey, we're selling our property. Nobody does this, but if you could teach people to do it, would be helpful. Hey, we're selling our property. There's going to be a title company reaching out to you for a payoff, and this is our forwarding address.
Okay, that was my next question. How to recuperate them? Because many of my sellers are moving out,
Exactly.
And
their mortgage, so their mortgage gets paid off. And typically that check is going to go to, I know it sounds crazy, but it's going to go to the property address, which hopefully then they have like, I know it's nuts, right? So it's like, there's all these moving pieces. So if we could get sellers to call and give their bank their forwarding address, wonderful. We try to tell them that, especially right now. I'm going to tell you this though, too, which is crazy. Recently, there's been a lot of fraud with us getting payoff, right? Even fax to us. So like most of these banks still fax. So we have a fax number because the banks fax payoff. There's been so much fraud in even just faxing or the altering of payoff information, right? Where to wire, all that stuff. So our underwriters have actually advised us to go back to not wiring payoff, but actually FedExing a check to like Wells Fargo. So because it's that bad. It's that bad. So when we FedEx checks for payoffs, we actually have a sheet with the seller's information and their forwarding address saying basically like send the escrow to here.
Wow, that's scary.
It's very scary.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I could say the seller, when they are selling, give a quick phone call to your bank, give them a heads up, and try to have a U.S. address.
Yeah, U.S. address. Yep.
Okay.
You know, like what? At least tell your bank your forwarding address.
Okay. I appreciate your fluid communication. You're transparent. I see that you're passionate about
I am. I
the.
really am. I know I'm a little like I'm like a little nerd about this. Like I get really excited.
With title, everybody is like doing a routine, the checklist. I see that you kind of add the emotional part
Yeah.
on the clients, that also their weight. It is a heavy part of the
Yeah.
transaction.
And it is, so it can become very mechanical. So then we have like our culture is that it's not, right?
It's,
So we open a file and we have the most robust like software in the title industry. It's beautiful, it's super user friendly. We have workflows, right? Assigned to we have 58 tasks in our workflow, right? Which like from beginning to end, 58 different tasks. And yes, it's very easy to be like, I did this. Okay, I did this, right? Like click, 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 click. But I always try to remind, my closer, our team, there's people involved in this, right? Like even for an investor. I mean, I just closed an investment deal the other day. The investor who usually aren't like emotional about things wanted to get out of this deal and like get his money, right? Like so it doesn't become about like somebody needs to move in and I got to put my kids in school, but it's like I need this money for the next thing.
of course, and it's an explosive combination, people and money. But as long as we have that phone call, even if it is, a quick one, or at that email, we are still working on it, or we didn't get the clear to
Yes.
close, we didn't get the package. I had a closing, an extension of closing for a week, and the bank keeps saying, I'm going to send the package today. I'm going to send the package today. And we know that if we don't have the clear to close 3 days before closing, I mean, it could happen, but regularly it doesn't. And as you said, my seller was planning on coming to the closing from another, state. So it's everything revolves around their agenda. And I appreciate that you are sharing all this with us, so we can know that there is someone. This is the owner of the title company, is in charge of checklists and 48 tasks, but
53.
also is caring about the realtor, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the buyers, and the seller. So you have 4 people to deal with. And sometimes I think I'm not going to call or email. I'm going to let them work. But I do need information.
But yeah, when you need
time.
information, exactly. And again, my goal is to not have you have to sit there and be like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. Right. I don't want that because
Okay.
I put myself in your shoes, right? You're doing a million things. We're all doing a million things. But my job is to make sure that you're in the know and that you know what's going on, that you don't have to make a phone call. And honestly, again, remember I told you I'm intentional about everything. I started doing good news updates on Fridays. And let me tell you why. So I used to do them on Mondays, like start the week with like, I used to do them on Wednesdays, middle of the week update, like whatever. And I'm like, no, when do I get the most phone calls? I get the most phone calls about files on Saturday. Why? Because your sellers surface, your buyers surface, right? They're busy working all week. And then by Saturday, they're like, oh my God, I don't even know what's going on with my closing, right? So what are they doing? They're calling you. They're saying, hey, Cecilia, I didn't hear from you all week. Now they have time, right? They're calling you and saying, what's going on in my file? So I would get text messages and calls on Saturday, like, hey, Angela, I'm with my buyer or I'm at my seller's, house. Like, what's going on? And so I'm like, how do I avoid that? And how do I not make them stressed in front of their clients? So on Fridays, I send on Fridays so that if your sellers and buyers call you over the weekend, you have an answer.
Amazing.
I know it's crazy. I'm a little crazy about it.
I do call my clients every day, and I because I know everything is temporary. It's just for a season. It's 45 days of our relationship will be like
it's like
this.
It's like exactly. It's like intense. It's like intense
intimate.
dating.
So exactly. So even though I don't have the answer, I said I called the title company and I left a message. Tomorrow I will let you know as soon as I know more. I will let you know the minute they call me. I'll call you. But I do communicate with my clients every day. If I am, because as you said, it's a lot of pressure. Money is their lifestyle, is the biggest investment. So I'm super happy that you are on the other side helping us, to have
Yeah.
someone on our corner.
100%. And I just want agents to know, if like buyers or sellers or agents are watching this, like I want agents to know that they can have a different experience, right? And they just have to choose the right people. They have to make the right choices. And I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. I have never gotten a phone call, never gotten a phone call from an agent that is looking for a title company and have them say like, okay, what are your processes? What are your procedures? How do you handle this? No one has ever, you know,
No?
picked up the phone and said, hey, I'm looking for a title company and I want to interview you, right? The
Hmm.
way that I obviously, grow my business is having relationships like this and interacting but I've never had anybody kind of vet me, which I think is crazy. Like
Yeah,
agents should be calling their title companies or calling around and saying, hey, I have a problem. I don't like the way they do this. How do you do it?
we put a lot of effort on that, and nobody cares. They say that, what is that saying, that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right, exactly.
So we go back to my example of YouTube. Buyers and sellers don't get to practice. They need to hire the expert. We already practice and we fail for 20 years.
Right.
So we know, we learn they need to hire, but if we don't give the word out that, title company now, Southern Capital Title is owned and operated and supervised by the owner,
Yeah.
an attorney with law practice in New York and now in Florida, growing. So I wish you all the best. I don't know
Thank you so
what I'm
much.
missing. What I didn't ask? Maybe I didn't ask a lot of questions, but how can people connect with you?
You can email me, and my email is super easy. It's Angela at southerncapitaltitle.com. I'm easy to find on social media. Instagram is my full name too, so at Angela Pilla Soares, or you could even search the South Florida Title Pro. And honestly, I'm going to give out my cell phone number. Text me. I text all day long, 954-732-4544.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep in touch. And
Okay.
I appreciate your time again. All the best, and pass that Florida
Yes.
bar test in February.
I know I will.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Cecilia.
Have a good
Appreciate it.
afternoon.
All right, you too.